Punkvin proudly presenting Isabelle Legeron, Master of Wine at Raw in Berlin 2016. Very welcome here, and could you tell us about yourself?
Sure, of course, with pleasure. So I'm a French, I was born in France on a farm. My family farm grapes to make cognac. And then I studied in Britain and moved to London. So now I think I'm probably more of a Londoner than a French person. So I've been in London for 20 years. And in 2012, so I did plenty of wine studies, but wine was my second career, so actually I moved back to wine from a business career in 2000. I did a diploma and Master of Wine. And then in 2012 I created this festival here called Raw Wine, and it started in London, then we moved to Vienna, Berlin, and then New York. So we've created an international community for people who can come and meet the growers, taste the wines, everywhere.
And it's fantastic. I've been around tasting wines, and there are producers also from Croatia, from Slovakia, from Georgia, and all over. It's fantastic. And all these people producing ecologic or biodynamic or even natural wines. And you are a great speaker of natural wine. I'm from Sweden, and in Sweden it's either for or against in the press and the sommeliers. So could you explain about the natural wines? Because I think there's a lot of confusions.
I mean, there is. I think that the confusion about the term natural wine comes from the fact that there's no definition. So it's normal that there should be a confusion. What we try and do at the fair is, this is a fair for organic, biodynamic and natural wine. But the organic and biodynamic wines are made with low intervention, so spontaneous fermentation, low levels of sulfites. And when I speak about natural wine, then I speak about wines that are made without adding anything or without removing anything, and obviously farmed organically. I think we see more and more, more and more confusion around the farming aspect, because some people call natural wine even though it's not farmed organically. So I think we need to make sure that we talk about the farming first, because that is the most important. You cannot make a natural wine if you don't have life in the vineyard. Life is all important. And then once you have organically farmed vineyards or biodynamically farmed vineyards, and you don't do anything and you carry on this philosophy in the winery, then you can talk about a natural wine.
That's what I mean as well, because I think it's many people only talk about the sulfur, and I'm trying to say, no, it starts in the vineyards. It's the vineyard, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah.
That's no chemicals and nothing like that.
Yeah, of course, it's if you want to make quality wine anyway, you have to have organic farming, and for sure, if you want to talk about natural wine, it starts in the vineyard.
Yeah, and how in London where you live, is it very well appreciated there, or is it also people talking against it? And
not so much. We've had some of that, particularly at the beginning when we launched the fair. There was more polemic. 5-6 years ago, there was a lot of talk in the press. I think that the more sort of traditional press had, I guess, more of an opinion. But now I think people accept that there's place for everybody in the market. I think it's driven by the consumers, by members of the public, and people choose. Some people choose to drink natural wine, some people choose to drink conventional wine. I personally only drink natural wine, but that's my choice, it's my preference, it's what I like drinking. But I don't have an issue with people who decide they want to add yeast, they want to add loads of sulfites or sterile filter. For me, the key is about transparency. I think everybody should be farming organically because you don't need vineyards to feed the world. We're talking about luxury product, luxury industry, so everybody should absolutely be organic. I don't think there's any excuse. But what happens in the cellar, as long as people are transparent and declare how they make wines, then that means that people buying a bottle of wine can actually choose, and they know where they're spending 15, 20, 30 euros. And I think that is the biggest challenge by our industry. I think we should stop fighting about natural wine and all this. I think that's a bit silly. I think we need to all fight for transparency and being completely upfront and honest about what happens in the cellar, and stop selling the dream that all wines are made naturally.
Yeah. And but still, if you're organic or biodynamic, you still can use copper and things like that. And
of course, the organic industry has its own set of issues, and sometimes there are elevated levels of copper, building up in the soil, maybe the use of tractors and the pollution. So there's still, some issues, but I think still, for me, it's better than using blanket spraying of pesticides, weed killers. You look at a lot of vineyards and they look like deserts, nothing is growing, and I think that's a shame because it's not, when you use a weed killer, of course you're going to kill all the plants, but also all the biodiversity, all the life, everything growing around it, all the microbes, all the insects, and I think that has to be respected.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Sweden we have a monopoly, and only certified wines can be recommended or talked about from the monopoly side. So there are a lot of natural wines or organic or biodynamic, but they are not certified, but they could not recommend. So they have not the choice to say in the catalogs and things that this is natural.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for the consumers. They have to really look for information and things like that.
I think, to be honest, I know that in Sweden it's particularly difficult to buy those wines, particularly given they're made in such small quantities. But I think everywhere, in all the markets, you still have to look for them. You still have to go to your specialty shop, your independent wine shop, or your wine bar or your restaurant, and speak to the sommeliers or the buyers who are getting the wines in. But I know that in certain places, like Sweden, it's particularly difficult.
Yeah. But it's growing on the wine bars and the restaurants. This interest from sommeliers that they are buying directly from the importers.
Yeah, I know. So well, I can see in the room there's so many people coming over from Sweden, which is great.
That's good. Yeah. And the last question, is there any producer, artisan that I should not miss today?
That's a very difficult question. I think being Berlin, we are, I guess, whenever we organize an event, we try and get as much of a local flavor as possible and bring in the community. So I think being in Berlin, it's an opportunity to try maybe neighboring countries. So Germany, Austria, Slovakia, people who came from actually not that far afield, maybe Poland, and try these wineries that you might not otherwise come across, maybe in London or New York. So I think for me the focus has to be kind of this Central Eastern European sort of basin and taste the wines, because they don't travel very often. And there's a one from Turkey made in Amphora in Quevri, which I think is also will be very interesting.
Thank you so very much, and you made a great job with this fair, and hope to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Next year.
And thank you for coming all the way over. That's nice. Thank you.